A little boy is hit and killed by a car, but 4 days after his burial, his body mysteriously appears back in his home. The sheriff assumes the boy's mother was so consumed by grief that she dug up his body, but looking at the muddy footprints on the floor, the medical examiner at the scene believes the body may have crawled out of the grave on its own. The story begins with a woman. A wife gets up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom, but the moment she leaves, her sleeping husband is woken by a strange, eerie sound. He gets up immediately to check on things, but as soon as he steps into the bathroom, he freezes in terror at what he sees. His wife is floating in midair, slamming into the walls over and over again. After the incident, Jack is arrested by police on suspicion of murdering his wife, but to his surprise, the ones interrogating him aren't police officers. They're 3 paranormal experts. They ask Jack to describe any strange occurrences he's experienced recently. The first thing that comes to mind is his neighbor, Walter. The man had been acting bizarre lately, and he was constantly doing renovations in his house at all hours of the day and night. But what catches Jack off guard is that the moment he mentions Walter's name, the expressions on the 3 experts' faces suddenly change. It turns out that just a few days earlier, Walter had tried to contact one of the 3, Dr. Morat, claiming he'd been experiencing paranormal events. Starting about a month ago, strange things kept happening around Walter. It felt like there was suddenly an extra presence in his house. It got so bad he needed medication just to fall asleep every night. One night, Walter takes his pills and lies down. The next second, the lights flicker. Walter jolts awake and realizes the bed beneath him is moving on its own. His first thought is that something is under the bed. He leans over to check, but finds nothing. However, the moment he lies back down, a creature with long legs and long feet appears from under the bed. Then the lights go out. Someone or something has pulled the plug under the bed. Walter plugs it back in, and when he looks up, he sees a figure dart out of the room. Terrified, Walter pulls the covers over his head, but to his despair, a whistling sound fills the room. Then a large hand slowly reaches toward him. The next morning, Walter is woken by the harsh sunlight. He sits up to find his house completely trashed, as if it had been ransacked. Realizing how serious the situation is, Walter asks around and manages to get Dr. Morat's phone number. The doctor's assistant asks him to provide some tangible evidence of the strange occurrences in his home. That afternoon, Walter buys a video camera, hoping to capture whatever happens at night, but just as he arrives home, he runs into his neighbor Jack. Jack complains about all the constant banging and hammering, saying it's caused cracks in his walls. Not wanting to scare his neighbor, Walter lies and says he's been remodeling the house, and asks for their understanding. Before going to bed that night, Walter sets up the camera on his nightstand, pointed at himself. In the middle of the night, he's woken by the sound of the camera falling over. At the same time, a terrifying shadow appears in the room. Walter turns on the light and scrambles to his feet. Then he checks the camera footage and sees something that makes his blood run cold. After he had fallen asleep, a tall, terrifying figure stood right at the foot of his bed, staring at him without moving, and then it crawled into the closet in his room. Walter's scalp tingles with fear. He immediately pulls out a gun and throws open the closet door, but there's nothing inside except some clothes. Walter checks the camera again and discovers the creature really did crawl out from under his bed. Just then, the closet door behind him slowly creaks open. The creature inches toward Walter. He senses something behind him and tries to react, but it's too late. The next morning, the neighbor's little boy accidentally kicks his soccer ball into Walter's yard. He runs in to get it. Feeling thirsty, he decides to get some water. But from inside the house comes Walter's voice, screaming at him, "Get out! Get as far away as you can, or you'll die here!" The boy stumbles backward in terror, but as he backs onto the road, a car suddenly appears and hits him. Police arrive at the scene quickly. The blood on the ground is washed into the storm drain. Little do they know, this would lead to even bigger trouble. Soon after, the family holds a funeral for the boy. Several close neighbors attend, but Walter is nowhere to be seen. 4 days later, in the early hours of the morning, the medical examiner Hanos gets an urgent call from the sheriff. Hanos is also a member of the supernatural investigation team. The sheriff tells him to get to the dead boy's house immediately. From the sound of his voice, something major has happened. It turns out the boy's mother couldn't sleep that night. Suddenly, she heard frantic knocking at the door. She called out several times, but no one answered. When she went to the door, she found no one outside, just a trail of small, muddy footprints and the faint shadow of a child. By the time Hanos arrives, the sheriff has already been waiting for a while, but when the medical examiner steps inside and sees what's there, he can't help but gasp. The boy who died 4 days ago has mysteriously reappeared in the house. The police assumed the boy's mother couldn't accept her son's death and dug him out of his grave, but after Hanos carefully examines the body, he makes a different discovery. The boy's fingernails are broken and his hands are caked with dirt. It's very possible he clawed his way out of the grave and came home on his own. but the sheriff refuses to believe a dead body could dig itself out of the ground. Both of them immediately realize the gravity of the situation. To avoid causing panic, they agree to bury the body back in the grave under cover of darkness and pretend none of this ever happened. Janos then decides to look around the house for any clues. He spots a woman taking photos in front of Walter's house across the street. The woman turns out to be Dr. Mora. The medical examiner had attended a few of her lectures before, so he recognizes her. It turns out Walter had mailed the paranormal footage he recorded to Dr. Mora. She came to investigate today, only to find that Walter has been missing for days. Thrilled to encounter such a qualified professional, Janos invites Mora to come examine the boy's body. The moment Dr. Mora approaches the house, she notices handprints and footprints on the wall. These are not something an ordinary child could have made. The two follow the footprints all the way to the boy's body. When she hears about what happened with the boy, she's even more shocked. Dr. Mora pulls out the photo of the ghostly figure Walter captured. Only then does the medical examiner realize that the supernatural occurrences aren't limited to just the boy's family. But why would two households experience these events one after another? And they're only separated by a single road. Could it really be just a coincidence? Clearly, there must be some pattern at work that they don't yet understand. While the two are talking, a little boy climbs over the wall and sneaks into the backyard. He sees the dead boy sitting there, completely motionless, and finds it very strange. He taps lightly on the glass. Suddenly, the boy's body moves. The child's scream draws the attention of the two investigators. Seeing the back door left ajar, Janos immediately realizes someone has broken in and seen the body. Mora suggests moving the body to avoid scaring more people. Janos wraps the boy's body in a blanket and temporarily places it in the freezer in the backyard, to wait for the sheriff to come handle it. As a precaution, he even places a potted plant on top of the freezer. What he doesn't realize is that the boy from earlier has recorded everything on his phone. Moments later, the sheriff arrives. When he learns that someone has discovered the body, he decides to haul the body and the freezer out of there immediately. But just then, from inside the freezer comes the sound of a child crying.
La puta madre, Jano.
The timeline shifts back to the prison. The reason Mora and her team sought out Jack was to learn about his own experiences, and to obtain permission to access the house so they could better investigate the connection between the three supernatural incidents. Once Jack understands their intentions, he signs the authorization papers without hesitation. That very evening, the sheriff, the medical examiner Janos, Dr. Mora, and her colleague Dr. Rosen, a team of 4, arrive at the neighborhood and split up to investigate. Dr. Rosen and the sheriff are paired together. They're assigned to investigate Walter's house. Janos goes alone to the dead boy's house, and Dr. Mora heads to Jack's house. Before long, Dr. Rosen makes a discovery. The kitchen utensils have been eerily stuck to the cabinet, as if magnetically attached. Dr. Rosen fiddles with the knives and forks, trying to figure out the cause. Suddenly, a kitchen knife pierces straight through his hand. What's even more disturbing is that the blood flows in reverse along his hand, streaming upward into the cabinet. From inside comes a gurgling, sucking sound as if something is ravenously feeding on his blood. They carefully open the cabinet. Some kind of mysterious force seems to burst out. Dr. Rosen endures the pain, pulls out the knife, and steps outside only to find every object in the room floating in midair. The sheriff quickly calls Janos to report what's happening, but when Janos looks through the window toward the other house, he sees a terrifying ghostly figure appear on the sheriff's side. What's even stranger is that this apparition can only be seen through glass. After a piercing scream, the phone goes silent. The sheriff senses something is very wrong. He finds Dr. Rosen and urges him to evacuate immediately. But the doctor says he's made a new discovery and insists on showing the sheriff. From the front, the space under the bed appears completely empty. But once you walk around to the other side of the bed, you can see it's packed with horrifying creatures. Dr. Rosen explains excitedly that this is two-dimensional spaces coexisting in the same time and place. Change your direction or angle, and you might see two entirely different worlds. The sheriff rushes to the neighbor's house to find the medical examiner, but Janos is already gone, nowhere to be found. Just then, agonized groaning comes from inside a cabinet behind him. A conspicuous bloody handprint marks the cabinet door. The sheriff opens it but finds nothing unusual. Then he suddenly remembers what Dr. Rosen said. Maybe a different angle would reveal a different world. The sheriff pries off the back panel of the cabinet, and sure enough, from behind it he sees Janos. His body is impaled with shards of glass, a horrific sight. Meanwhile, Dr. Mora discovers a large space through a crack in the wall. Inside, there's a figure that looks exactly like the missing Walter. Just then, the sheriff arrives and tells her what happened to the other two. But Dr. Mora tells the sheriff to stay calm and not to believe anything he's seen tonight. It could all be an illusion deliberately created by the creatures. She explains that she spent years researching the theory of coexisting dimensions. The various dimensions are arranged in an orderly fashion according to specific patterns, like the segments inside an orange. Each dimensional space contains living beings, and some of these beings seem capable of crossing through spatial rifts into our world. Although there's no way to properly define these entities, they clearly possess extreme aggression and a strong territorial instinct. As of now, there's no known way to stop or kill them, but while the two are talking, the sheriff sees something so shocking that he suffers a heart attack on the spot. Then a terrifying creature squeezes out through the crack in the wall. Strangely, though, it doesn't choose to harm the sheriff. At the same time, the cabinet door behind Dr. Rosen slowly creaks open, exactly like what Walter experienced before. The scene cuts back to the sheriff's side. The dead boy's mother suddenly appears, her hands covered in dirt and blood. She demands to know why the sheriff lied to her. After the sheriff had dealt with the boy's body, he told her the child had never come back at all, that everything she saw was just a hallucination caused by missing her son too much. That is, until the woman saw the video the little boy had recorded on his phone. But the sheriff has no time to explain. He begs the woman to take him to the hospital. As they head outside to the car, the sheriff suddenly notices the little boy's body in the back seat. The grief-stricken mother has dug up the body yet again. The sheriff staggers back to his own car, about to drive away, when Dr. Mora, her neck twisted and broken, suddenly lunges out. By now, his heart has recovered just slightly. Just then, a colleague's voice crackles over the radio. Worried about his safety, the colleague has also gone to the neighborhood to stop the creatures inside from hurting more innocent people. The sheriff grabs 2 cans of gasoline and heads back. He's going to burn down all 3 houses and put an end to this once and for all. But as he's pouring the gasoline, the sheriff discovers the boy's mother hanging dead in the living room. He has no idea when it happened, but there's no time to dwell on it. He heads outside, ready to light the houses on fire. But no matter how many times he tries, the matches keep getting blown out the instant they ignite. He shifts to a different direction and tries again. The next second, the sheriff collapses to the ground in terror, but he still manages to pull out his gun and ignite the house. The raging flames quickly consume everything, as if all the evil would vanish with the fire. A year passes. 3 new visitors come to see Jack in prison, but what they want to know about is Jack's relationship with the sheriff. They suspect the sheriff is connected to his wife's death, and after setting the houses on fire, the sheriff vanished without a trace. Reportedly, there were still living people inside the houses at the time. Suddenly, Jack points behind them. He says he sees a man with a burned face following them. Jack says it's Dr. Rosen, the one he mentioned earlier, but the others can't see anyone there at all. Just as the 3 sit in confusion, a chair comes flying at them. Clearly, the creatures have no intention of stopping. After watching this film, a bone-deep chill lingers long after it ends. The most terrifying thing about this movie isn't the horror on screen, it's the cruel truth it tells the audience. In the face of the truly unknown, humanity is utterly powerless. The most unsettling concept in the film is that these interdimensional beings spread through tap water, feed on blood, and appear and disappear depending on the angle you're looking from. This means danger lurks in the most ordinary corners of everyday life. The water you drink, the bed you sleep in, the hallway you walk through every day. Any of them could be hiding something you can't see. This kind of horror embedded in the mundane is more spine-chilling than any monster or demon. The message it sends about real life is profound. Humans always think they're in control of everything, that science can explain it all. But the moment we encounter something truly unknown, we realize just how narrow the boundaries of our knowledge really are. When faced with beings beyond our comprehension, perhaps the best response isn't blind resistance, but humility and respect for the unknown. I'm Jack. That's all for today's movie.